Hey everyone, it's Miss Courtney from the Kenneville Public Library. I'm joining my husband Sean from YMCA Camp Potawatomi, and today we're going to learn about lakes and what lives in a lake. I have a story to share with you in just a moment. Here's one of the fantastic books we have at the library, Who Lives in a Lake? It's a great question. There are lots of things that live in the lake, and our tadpole book is going to tell us. Who lives in a lake? Well, fish live in a lake, lots of different types of fish. Clams live in a lake. Sometimes you can find shells on the shore. Crayfish live in a lake. This one's a beautiful blue color. Snails live in a lake. Newts live in a lake. Turtles live in a lake. We have a great place, Turtle Bay, here at camp, where you will see a lot of turtles just like this sunning themselves. They love it. And frogs live in a lake. We have a lot of frogs out too right now.
Thank you, Courtney, for that awesome story. Now we're going to learn about what lives in Blackman Lake. So Courtney drew out this awesome lake with all the different critters that live in here. So we have a fish, a turtle, a water bug, a frog, a lily pad, as well as some seaweed. Now that we learned about what lives in our lake, we're going to learn about this cool, interesting word that we found out. Right here, the first word is benthic. Now, benthic means something that lives at the bottom. And for today, we're going to learn about something that lives at the bottom of the lake. And then we have this big long word. We're going to split it into two. First, it's macro, which can be seen by the naked eye or without a microscope. And invertebrate, which means it does not have a backbone. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to find some benthic macroinvertebrate down by the lake. All right, now that we're at the lake, we are going to go find some benthic macroinvertebrate. Now what we're going to need is a Tupperware container, some water, and some boots so that you can walk in the water. Now remember, the water's going to be cold, so just make sure that you're prepared for it. Make sure you bring a towel too to dry your hands off because it'll get cold. Are you guys ready to find some benthic macroinvertebrate? All right, let's go. So we're going to fill the bucket of water. We're going to grab a rock. We're going to swirl it around in our bucket. And then we're going to remember we're going to place it back into the water so that other benthic macroinvertebrate can live in the water. And we're going to do this for a couple times until we find some benthic macroinvertebrate. Alright, so now that we have collected our macroinvertebrate, you can kind of see them swimming around. We're going to observe this bucket for a little bit and see what we can find. As you can see, some of those nymphs at the top are moving around pretty quickly. So you're going to see those, and then you might see some different invertebrate at the bottom as well. So go ahead and look around for a little bit. Alright, now that you've identified some macroinvertebrate, what we're going to do is we're going to go over to this chart right here, and we are going to learn about the different words that you can kind of see over here. So there's very intolerant to pollution, moderately intolerant to pollution, fairly tolerant to pollution, and very tolerant to pollution. So what that means is you might have some friends that are allergic to peanuts, and when they're allergic to peanuts, they can't have peanuts. Well, this is kind of the same for the invertebrate. If they're very intolerant to pollution, that means they can't be around pollution at all. Because if they're around pollution, they can't survive. Now, if it's moderately intolerant, it means it can handle a little bit of pollution, but still, it's not going to survive if there's a lot of pollution. Now, if it's fairly tolerant to pollution, it's going to handle a little bit more, but still, it's not going to be all about living in pollution. It's not going to be living in a polluted lake. But if it's very tolerant to pollution, then it will survive in pollution. So we're going to notice that when we look at this chart, we notice that there's some nymphs in here, and the nymphs cannot survive in pollution. So by kind of looking at this chart and finding nymphs in our water, do you think it's polluted or not polluted? Correct, it's not polluted because the nymphs are very intolerant, so they cannot survive in pollution. Very good job. Go.
All right, so now that we've learned about benthic macroinvertebrates, we've learned that maybe they can be sometimes tricky to find. So if you can't find your benthic macroinvertebrates in a lake near you, you can also do a lot of other cool water things, like this little guy. We've got a little boat that you can make, and you can float in your lake, you could float it in your bathtub or your kitchen sink. So let's go make one. We've got one pre-made, but then we've got our materials right here. We've got some awesome washi tape, and I'm going to use a toothpick and some paper, and we're going to use that decorative washi tape to put the mast on, and then you stick it in the pool noodle and you're ready to go float your boats.
All right, now that we learned how to make boats and we learned to identify benthic macroinvertebrate, we're going to release the benthic macroinvertebrate back in the water and we're going to see how well these boats float. Here we go. Look at them go.
Thanks so much for joining Sean and I in our lake study this week. We'll see you next week.